Hello and welcome to another edition of Conversations with Kevin Chrisom on Milton Access Television. I'm your host Kevin Chrisom, and today I'll sit down with Precinct 7 town meeting member and lifelong Milton resident Sean Bentley to discuss many of the hot button issues here in town, his recent campaign for town meeting, and his thoughts on getting more young people involved in town government, and so much more. Our show starts now, so let's go have a conversation. Hello, my friends, and thank you for joining us here on Conversations on Milton Access TV. Well, if you live in the Precinct 7 neighborhood of East Milton, odds are you probably got a knock on your door this past April from a young town meeting member candidate named Sean Bentley. A lifelong resident of the town and product of the Milton Public Schools, Sean embarked on his first foray into town politics by throwing his hat into the ring to represent his Precinct 7 neighbors at town meeting. With a record 21 candidates running for only 9 seats, Sean worked hard and ended up receiving 444 votes, making him the highest vote getter in the precinct. Along with serving as a town meeting member, Sean also is an appointed member of Milton's Affordable Housing Trust and has a love for all things politics and local government. With me to discuss his historic campaign and much more, the man himself, Sean Bentley. Sean, thanks so much for joining us here on Conversations today.
Thank you, Kevin, for having me.
Thank you, my friend. What made you get involved in running for town meeting? As we mentioned at the outset that you have a love for politics. Is running for office, running for local office, always something you wanted to do?
Well, I've just always been interested in town government. I mean, Milton's just given me so much. I was a lifelong student in the Milton Public Schools, K through 12, and I just really enjoyed politics, like the process, and I really wanted to give back to the community that gave me, so much, like my friendships, my education, and just like most of my life's memories are in this town. And I just thought, town meeting, it's not a lot of 24-year-olds, running for town meeting. So I just thought, why not me? Why not, have a new perspective for town meeting? And yeah, I was happy to join, and I was shocked when I topped the ticket, and it was a pleasure to have you on town meeting with me.
Yeah, it's certainly true, and I would say Precinct 7 is very lucky to have you representing them at the town meeting. We'll talk about that historic campaign in a little bit throughout the show here, but you're a lifelong resident of the town. As I mentioned, you're a product of the Milton Public School system. Talk about some of your earliest memories in the Milton Public Schools. Where'd you go to school in Milton, and sort of why you wanted to get involved in what you're doing now?
Well, yeah, I went to Glover Elementary School, K through 5. I went to Pierce Middle School, 6 through 8, and then Milton High, 9 through 12. So go Gators and go Wildcats. I sort of stumbling on the Pierce mascot, if there is one. It's been some years since I've been, doing the Pierce, but yeah, I've some great memories I had. I mean, a lot of memories, especially in high school. Senior year, we had our prom on the Spirit of Boston, dancing the night away. We were crowd surfing one of our fellow students on the dance floor. Oh yeah, that was a fun time, and I was dancing so hard on the dance floor. Somebody had to give me, one of the chaperones had to give me like a towel. I guess I was just boogieing too hard on the floor.
Good times.
Yeah, good times, and that was a fun time. And Glover, there was a lot of good times just playing apples to apples. And I mean, that was one of my favorite games back in the day.
And do you think being a product of the Milton Public Schools has shaped you, who you are today?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, having the small class sizes, and I just think it really makes an impact. Like, I was always one of those students who was raising their hands, and I just think,
really, that's shocking to me. Shocking. Yeah.
I'm just that type of student, and having that sort of attention. And I think that's also what motivated me to get involved in town politics. Like, I like asking questions and like learning about just all the different institutions involved in, like, with government, because you're dealing with like every single like element of the town. Like, you're learning about like the schools and like the traffic and like all these different elements, and I've always been a very inquisitive person, I'd say.
So you graduated from Milton High in 2018,
Yes,
correct?
go Wildcats.
Go Wildcats, very good. Where did you end up after high school? I know the answer to this, but for the folks at home.
So I ended up going to St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire.
Sure.
I got my bachelor's of arts there, and in political science. That was my major, with a minor in communication. I was class president for the final 2 years up there during the COVID year. So that was an interesting time to be involved there.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, I did the New Hampshire Institute of Politics. I was an ambassador with them, and I also did Model UN when I was up there too. And it was a great experiences, and very similar to Milton High and Milton Public Schools throughout, like very small classes, and I really enjoyed that.
That's no doubt about it. So for the folks at home who don't know this, Sean and I, despite the fact having grown up 2 minutes down the road from each other, Sean in East Milton, I didn't know Sean at any time through high school or middle school or elementary school for that matter. Got to know Sean one of the first nights of college. We both attended St. Anselm College, and it's been a friendship for the past 6 years, and it's been a great lot of laughs and a great experience as well. And to be able to do this with you here is a tremendous honor. So thanks for joining us.
I always joke it's just one traffic light between our houses.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. So St. A's, obviously, for the folks who are familiar with St. Anselm College, a lot of politics students come out of it. Is that something that shaped you as well to where you are today, being part of that process up there in New Hampshire, and the presidential primary and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, like I worked behind the scenes of, some of the town halls for like CNN, and helping, like being like a seat filler, and like just working, like helping like guests at the institute as well, and like helping them like get to the stage and like getting anything they need. And yeah, I mean, being close, behind the scenes for that, it's a once in a lifetime experience. I don't think I could get it, anywhere else really.
Right. So true. So true. And you also interned as well at the State House for then Senator Timilty at one point, correct?
Yes, I did intern for Senator Timilty. So it was my freshman year of college, if I'm not mistaken, summer of 2019. So I would have finished my freshman year of college. So yeah, I was handling a lot of like constituent issues, and like answering the phones, and like I did some research on like various like legislative issues, and like what other states were doing, like for example on like veterans care. I know that was something at the time Senator Timilty really cared for, and like seeing like what we could do, for the Commonwealth, and seeing like what other states are doing.
Sure.
As they say, the states are the laboratories of democracy.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, it's interesting what you can learn from other states.
No doubt about it. And speaking of that too, you also worked for Senator Shaheen up in Hampshire too, correct?
Yes.
For some time?
Yeah, I did. So I worked in her district office. So I was handling the phones, and like also just like I attended like a lot of the hearings. There was one on like the electric school bus program. They were transitioning, the Biden administration at the time were transitioning from diesel school buses to electric school buses. So, I was like looking at taking notes on that. And then also I did a paper at the time on the special immigrant visa program.
Sure.
And I was examining like the senator's role on it, because she is on the Foreign Relations Committee in the Senate. And I was examining, it was something that was very important to her, because I mean, these were people that that helped us during our time in Afghanistan. And, we were trying to get them out after the Taliban took over, and just examining that program. It was definitely, it was really a great experience.
What were the biggest differences you found in working for Senator Timilty, and then working for on the state level, and then going up to New Hampshire, working the district office for federal, obviously United States Senator? The differences you found in the job, and between the two states as well, did you pick up on any similarities and differences as well?
Yeah, well, I definitely think with Senator Shaheen, it was definitely a very much constituent focused, and at the time this was a time of great discontent, because I started literally a month before Russia invaded Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
So it literally, like after the invasion, gas prices went up like tremendously at the time. And I mean, of course, New Hampshire, I mean, it's winter, and that has an impact on the home heating oil prices, and gas prices shot up. So you're really like noticing like hearing all the individual stories about how people are struggling with inflation. Like, how am I going to get my home heating oil? Like, how about my veterans benefits? Because it's a time of great struggling, unfortunately, for a lot of people, just with the inflation crisis and cost of living. And you're dealing with that a lot more at the district office, compared to, down in Boston. Obviously, you're dealing with, constituent issues and, answering the phone. But, at the same time, you're doing a lot more like being in, in the committees and taking notes and dealing with the legislation. I mean, culturally, like politically, I mean, definitely New Hampshire has definitely their motto is obviously live free or die. Right. So it's definitely, a very much an independence motto. And I think, Massachusetts is definitely, we're very much about the culture is like having, an importance in like government and this was like the oldest schools, like best hospital program. So
there's great history here. There's great history here, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. So when you're working for Senator Timilton, you're working for Senator Shaheen, was it a time in those two offices where you said, wow, this is something that I think I want to do perhaps long term? Or is it something from a young age that you wanted to be involved in, local government, and then possibly in the next upper levels of that?
Well, I've always just been interested in government. Right. I definitely think those experiences definitely helped, solidify that. I also interned in college with the Bipartisan Policy Center. So I was watching the congressional hearings and like taking notes, because at the time it was COVID, so it was during like the COVID spike. So, so that definitely solidified my experience. But my first really great my first memory of government, I attended a gubernatorial debate when I was 10 years old. It was down at the F1 Sports
in Braintree
studio, in Braintree,
right.
And it was at the time it was Deval Patrick, Charlie Baker, and Tim Cahill, and I was just struck up with that memory, and I don't know how we got in there, but we just it's just like seeing like how they answered the questions, and just I don't know, I was just thrilled with the public service, and I just always found it compelling. And just shortly afterwards, my mother, I don't know how it happened, but my mother, myself, and my grandfather, we met with Governor Patrick. I still have the picture someplace in his office. And
14 years ago, if you can believe that.
Yeah, it's
right?
crazy
Isn't
to
that
think
crazy
about.
To think about.
And yeah, it's just been like that ever since. I've just had an interest ever since.
There's no doubt about it. There's a great video online. We want to talk about St. Anselm College for a minute. And when Sean and I had the pleasure to go to an event, and Governor Patrick was there. And Sean asked a question to Governor Patrick, and actually we had met him beforehand. And there's a great video online, and Governor Patrick gets up and says, "My friend from East Milton." And of course, Governor Patrick spent a few years, 8 years when he was governor, living in Milton over on Hinckley Road, and that was a great memory, right, Sean?
Yeah, that was just a blast, and it was also one of my first, because it was a politics and eggs event,
right?
And it was like one of my first politics and eggs events. So it was, it was just, to have it be amongst my first, it really made it even more special.
That's great. That's great. And your family as well. Many of them still live in Milton, in the town?
Yeah. My mom and sister are both still here. So we still live in the same house, and they're all doing well. And my sister's also another proud student, K through 12. And she's working in town doing melodrama and the acting classes. And my aunt and uncle are both in town over on Alvin Ave, and their two kids. One, Ellie, the eldest, she's at Pierce in 7th grade, and Rosie, I believe, is in 5th grade. And they're also star basketball players as well. Like they just had a big win yesterday, Sunday. And they're both very tall because the mom is, 5'11", the dad's 6. Like, you think I'm tall, he's like a smidge taller, but we don't really acknowledge that except for here on the camera.
Right.
But yeah, he's 6'4", so they're all both incredibly tall, incredible players, very, very, very.
And all products of the Milton Public Schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's tremendous. All right, let's talk about why you're here. And that, of course, is your historic run for town meeting in Precinct 7 coming up almost a year ago when you decided to throw your hat into the ring. I remember you called me and you told me you were going to run after I had asked you to run before, and you said no, you weren't going to do it, and then had to change your heart. Talk us through the process of, as a 24-year-old, or at the time you were 23, running for town meeting.
Well, I mean, I just thought, like, at the time, I was like, oh, you can run a year later. And it was just like, at first, like, but the more I thought of it, the more I just thought, you know what? There's always next year. I mean, it's always, that's the thing. I mean, I've had electoral losses. I've had electoral victories. It's better to win than to lose.
Sound like a political pro over here.
But I just was, I mean, what got me into it was, I just thought that, it's just being involved, and there's just a level of energy, I think in particular after the February, special election. And
particularly in Precinct 7 in East Milton.
Particularly in Precinct 7. Oh yeah, it was the highest turnout in the precinct. And I just think that kind of unlocked a lot of it. And I just felt the energy was right that year, the circumstances. And you know what? Win or lose, I knew I was going to throw one heck of a campaign.
And that you did, because you were one of the last folks to officially pull papers, correct?
Yes, I guess saved the best for last.
In the last week. Did it concern you at all? Were you fearful a little bit when you saw that 9 seats are available and 21 people are running in town meeting? I know some people had withdrawn their candidacies, but for the most part, people stayed in. Was that concerning to you? It was concerning to me, but was it concerning to you as a fellow candidate?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was. I mean, especially I don't know what my name ID was before the election. It's not like it's not like I did like a poll or anything. Right. So it's like you're going in blind, and I mean, it definitely was a concern. But the way I saw it, it was an experience, win or lose. Sure. And it just, like, being involved, getting to hear from people, and I mean, it was a lot of work, but I learned a lot from it, and it was really good. It's really good.
It's surprising as well to see so many candidates run. In most years, for town meeting, you see the usual players that are either running for re-election or sometimes on open seats there are 3 to 4 people running. But to have 21 people, and not just in Precinct 7, but throughout the rest of the town as well, there was a high interest in serving on town meeting. And I would think, as I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, you think this will be a continual trend in the town, that more folks are going to be throwing their hat into town government and particularly running for town meeting?
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I definitely think people are engaged. I think especially with the last few elections, I think people are engaged, and people are energized, and I predict it will continue. And I think it's in the past it's been so difficult to, as you know, to get people to run for these positions. Right. And I really do think that it will continue into the future.
Well, obviously it worked, because you got 444 votes and topped the ticket by a good margin. What's the strategy? What was your strategy running for town meeting? Obviously you had to stand out. What did you do differently than your fellow candidates?
Well, the secret sauce, I guess. I don't know if I should be giving away my trademark secrets, but no, I mean, I had a list of all the addresses, and like going to people's houses and just knocking doors, and I had my literature, and and just being able to ask questions, and also, I'm somebody, I love walking, and just in general for exercise, and you see so many people out walking about the neighborhood, and you just meet so many people through that, and you're having those one-on-one interactions. I think also just word of mouth, like you just get one person
Right.
to, support you, and, they tell 5, 10 people, and, then they tell people, and also just the fact that, my fellow, like you and like a lot of us, town meeting members, like we were, you guys were a big help too, like just in terms of like spreading the word, and like you guys were very supportive as well. And it was just, it was a great effort. And my mother was also with me behind, along the scenes, and it was really a team effort throughout.
The good thing about Precinct 7 is it's fairly dense, so it's easy to walk.
Yeah, it's easy to walk.
From street to street. And what are some of the conversations you had with some of your fellow neighbors when you're knocking on doors, particularly for people that probably don't expect a town meeting member candidate to knock on their door?
Yeah, well, I think there was a lot of just, questions about, at the time, the MBTA, and just like where you stand on that,
Right.
and like the affordable housing in general, because I think, it is a problem, but what do you think about that? Obviously, the traffic in East Milton, because it's a very popular cut through.
That it is.
And like that came up quite a bit as well. And I think those two in particular were just like really just dominated the narrative.
That's great. That's great. Well, you were out there all day on April 30th holding signs, and I got to the polls around probably 7 a.m. or so, and you were there at 6:45 holding your sign and didn't leave until the polls closed at 8 o'clock. And it took a little while, too, for the results to come in, the official results from the clerk's office. What was it like when you found out you received the most votes, and that you won, too? Because at the end of the day, I remember we talked about it, said, it doesn't matter who gets the votes, so long as you win, but it's nice when you not only win, but also get to top the ticket as well. Talk about that feeling.
Yeah, that was quite the night. So, yeah, so I was at the time in the Cunningham Collycott Gymnasium. I was poll watching, so I was, so I was there waiting for the 6 and 8 results. So
from Precinct 6 and 8, Cunningham School.
So along with Brian Kelly, so another, Milton Access TV
sure.
host, and yeah, so I think he was covering 8, like my mother and I were covering 6, and we were waiting for the results to come in, and 7 came in before us, as I recall, and I got the notification that I won, and then at the time, I think it was my uncle who told me, John, and he told my mother that, and she told me, well, actually, when I got the news that I won, I just exclaimed, and they had to tell me to quiet. Like I was like, ah! But it is like there was just so much excitement for like a town meeting race because there were so many people. But then I found out from my uncle later on that I topped the ticket, and I was just like,
well, you worked
dropped.
hard for it. You worked hard for it. And a lot of people recognize when a candidate such as yourself works hard and who's young as well. Yeah. I mean, who's a young, as we like to say, young whippersnapper come in there and want to contribute to his town government. That's a good thing and a positive thing as well. So you get elected April 30th, and then town meeting is the next week following. What was that like? You go back to Milton High, where obviously town meeting is in the auditorium. What was that like? You head in there for your first town meeting. You spoke up a couple times on some issues, and what was it like being in that room with your fellow town meeting members for the first time?
It was surreal. I mean, just being there, and I mean, you see so many people that you recognize from like throughout the campaign, and like going to all the different candidate events, and that's something else that the campaign really helped, throughout. It's just like you're meeting like all these people who are like running, in the precinct, like your fellow town meeting candidates, and also like town-wide, like all the, like you have that, experience. So like seeing them at the town meeting, and then like just like going through and like seeing like how it works, like what's the consent agenda, and like what's the motion, like what's a motion, and like what's the speaking limits, like seeing like how it works. Surreal. Like, I mean, it's definitely, it can be a grind, but I mean, it's really rewarding to be, a part of it, and like to shape like town government, and like and like having your voice heard, like to have the opportunity to have like, I think it's like if I'm not mistaken, it's 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to speak on the floor.
Correct.
I mean, I never use the full 10 minutes, but it's crazy to think about. Yeah, I can have such, such a voice. I mean, for me, I don't like to speak too much, like just like generally like questions, but like I like it to matter the most when I do speak, like to have the biggest impact. So.
And do you enjoy the town meeting form of government? Do you think there's a benefit to keeping it in Milton? Because some other towns to our south have moved on from that form of government. Do you think it fits Milton?
I think it does. I think having the town meetings, system. I mean, because we get people's inputs, and I mean, like there were people in the audience. I mean, that was my first town meeting, so I can't say like is there an audience there every single meeting, but yeah, because for those of you who don't know, that like most of the town meeting members, they're like generally like in front of the stage, and then there's sort of like the steps. That's generally where the audience, are, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
About it.
And people pay attention, both in person, who make the time to come to Milton High, and also watch on Milton Access Television as well. Well, in the final 3.5 minutes here, Sean, of the show, again, I want to thank you for joining us here today on this edition of Conversations. You're a young guy like myself, and you are 1 for 1 in your campaign so far. And what's your advice to young folks who see other folks trying to give back to their town and want to start at the town meeting level or something else? What's your advice to them?
Well, I just would say listen to people, just go everywhere, like go to all the candidate forums, knock on doors. And I really, and I think just know the issues, and to do your research and just know why you're running, and and understand that, it's a commitment, but, if your heart is in it, run for it, and, and be prepared to win or lose. I mean, obviously it's better to win than to lose, but regardless, it is an experience, and, and you meet people, and I mean, I just can't think of, there are very few things that are more rewarding than, public service, and especially, I mean, the New England town meeting, it's very unique to this area.
Right.
And it's just, I mean, you're having an opportunity to be a part of something that is different, and, and it's just, we could definitely use more, people, our age. So, it's definitely, I mean, just be involved early. That's the advice I can give.
So what's next for you? Any other plans to run for any other offices in Milton? Higher office perhaps someday in the future? Town meeting just a one-stop shop for you, or is it there more on the horizon for Sean Bentley?
Yeah, you never know. I mean, it's definitely... I mean, I'm 24 in some months, so yeah, I mean, there's always the possibility of something else in the future. I mean, I enjoy working on the Affordable Housing Trust.
Right, a member of that as well.
Yeah, member of that, and town meeting, and I mean, I definitely enjoy that, but you never know, the future is bright, right?
Indeed it is. Well, Sean, we're flat out of time. That was a quick half hour.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. Keep up the good work, and come back and see us anytime here on Conversations.
Thanks again, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
Of course, and we'll see you around town.
Yeah.
And my thanks to all of you for joining us for yet another edition of Conversations right here on Milton Access TV. As a reminder, you can watch any episode of Conversations online, miltonaccesstv.org, or on our MATV YouTube page. And for all of us here at Milton Access Television, I'm Kevin Chrisom. Thank you for watching.
Three, two, one.